Hello everyone, it's Jane Malmy. Welcome back to another card making video and the last day of the Creative Design Team's Christmas in July series. Today I was inspired by this card, which is from circa 1994, back when I first started stamping, and that one was a super simple but fun card that we made. So I wanted to try and recreate it with new products and updated techniques. So here I've just cut a kind of a snowbank out of typing paper. I just freehand cut it. And then I've got this stamp from the Aurora Scrapbooking stamp set, and I'll show you that in a moment. But I'm kind of masking so that it looks like it is on a hill. And then you're going to see how I'm going to add the fun glittery snow after this. But by varying the heights, it makes it look like it's one stamp with kind of the trees in a cluster. I'm using New England Ivy ink here, but I'm going to show you a second card that I used Evergreen ink on, and I liked it better. So there's the stamp I'm using. It's on a outdoor stamp set that has matching thin cuts. And for the sentiments, I'm using these two sets, which were from the kind of motion special that Close to My Heart had. So those stamps are actually really fun. You can make them look like they move. But back to this card, I combined the warm with Winter Wishes and stamped that onto here with Archival black ink. I like that ink for a really dark black. And then I took my very favorite shimmer brush, the clear shimmer brush, and just splattered it all over to make it look like snow. And it's really hard to see here, but later on in the still shots, you'll be able to see it better, and it looks really awesome. Then I took my diamond Stickles, which is just iridescent Stickles with clear liquid, and I'm lining underneath those trees where the mask was to make it look like a snowbank. So this ended up turning out really cute. This is a very simple card to make with very minimal supplies. I then took this little snowflake and I stamped it in Versamark ink, which is just a clear sticky ink that you would typically use for embossing, but it adds just a very subtle, like a watermark look to the background, and I don't think I ever catch it really on camera, but believe me, it just adds that nice little subtle detail. And then here I'm just freehanding a little moon with the Stickles, and there we've got the copycat of that original card. This is the second version I did with the Evergreen ink, and now we are going to move on to card number 2. So each of these cards is going to get progressively more involved in the technique and the level. So stay with me here because I think that you can do them all, but we're going to just kind of step it up each time. So this one I used the die cuts that I showed you from, I think it's the Fancy Borders set. I'll link everything that's available still down below in case you want to recreate any of this. So I've got those snowbanks out of vellum, white cardstock, and white glitter cardstock, which adds a really fun look by mixing them all together. And then those trees that you see up at the top are from the Flower Market Cricut collection. It's called the Pine Tree. I think there's a couple of them though. And then the moon I cut out of white glitter cardstock as well, out of a stitch circle thin cut, but you can use whatever circle you have. Notice I use scrap paper as my base. I don't throw that away. If I don't use the back of it, then that's perfectly usable for something else. All right, so now I'm using my snowbank again as scrap paper, and I am going to ink these little pine trees because they were cut on the Cricut, and sometimes it leaves that white, you can see the white core, and so I wanted to cover that up, and I also wanted to darken them a little bit. So they were cut with New England Ivy ink or cardstock, and then I inked over them with New England Ivy. And then I'm just kind of placing them around the card where I like them and tucking them into the snowbanks. And I think that looks really, really cool. I've got my glittery moon up there. And then the Warmest Wishes is, I didn't show you the stamp set, I apologize, but it's from a stamp set that I'll link down below that has a flamingo snow globe. It's actually really cute, so you might want to check that out. So I decided I wanted a little more glitter paper on the bottom. And then since I had already placed all of my pine trees right where I wanted them, I just kind of peeled them back a little bit and put little dots of glue and held them in place. And then I did my same technique to add snow with the shimmer brush all over the card. And then I lined the top of the plain cardstock snowbanks with that same shimmer brush. And look at how cool that looks. It looks so pretty, and you'll be able to see the snow a little bit better in the still shot at the angle here. Isn't that cool? So now on to card number 3. I use these snowbanks that are actually mountains from a Cricut collection. So right there you see the layout from the Wander Cricut collection, and those mountains that were down on the bottom, I just resized them and changed them to white, and they make a fun look for snowbanks, and it gives it a different look. Now I'm going to do some ink blending, so I'm working on my all-purpose mat, and I was showing you that it is a silicone backing so that it doesn't slide around when you work. It's so awesome, and I've actually cut this down to a quarter size. I've got a larger mat that I kept large, and then I've got my older one here that I cut into quarters so it's easier to just pull out and work on small projects. And then I'm using the Distress Oxide inks to make sort of a Northern Lights night sky, and it's going to look really cool when we're done. I've got Abandoned Coral, Mustard Seed, and Peacock Feathers. And if you want to start out with just a few colors, I recommend a red, a yellow, and a blue, because then when you blend them together, the red and yellow make orange, and the yellow and blue will make green. And so you've got a rainbow of colors here just by using 3 colors. That mask is just a thin cardstock mask that I put removable tape on, and I held it in place just a little bit because it wanted to move around slightly, but it stuck down pretty well so that it doesn't move around too much. And then here I'm adding some chipped sapphire, which I'm running low on. I need to re-ink it, but it worked out in my favor here because I want to do just a thin layer of that sort of over those other rainbow colors and heavier around the outside. And this is going to start forming our night sky. And then I'm going to bring in some black soot, mostly around the edges as well, to really intensify that night sky. And it's just going to look so cool when we're done. And when we peel back that mask, look at that bright, stark white moon. Now, a lot of this is getting covered with that snowbank, but that's okay. But here I'm doing my same technique of splattering the shimmer brush, but the cool thing about doing it on the Distress Oxide inks is that they react with water, so it adds a different look to the sky than just the splatters. And then I very carefully covered the moon with the shimmer, and it adds such a beautiful shimmer to this moon. Very carefully went around the edge because the Distress Oxides react with water. I didn't want to smudge it at all. Then I added a little bit of black soot to my mat and picked it up with this, and I'm going to just shade it. And I added a little bit of water and then kept wiping it off because I didn't want it too dark, and spread it out, and look at that perfect shading on our moon. It just looks so cool. I love how this turned out. There's lots of cool ways that you can add moons with the Distress Oxides, and this is just one of them. I'll link to another video here where I did another Distress Oxide moon so you can see a different way to do that. So now I'm going to add all of my layers of mountains, aka snow in this case, and I used the pearl paper for every other snowbank. So it's really hard to catch on the video again, but it's a really shiny pearlescent white, and it looks really, really pretty. I used the same trees as the last card, but I cut them in black so that they would look like silhouettes in the night sky. And then I glued them down on the snowbank at various levels. I wanted to use that same Warmest Wishes sentiment, but I was scared to stamp it directly onto my card because I didn't want to mess up that background that I had done. So I decided I was thinking I was going to stamp it inside, but I came up with something else. So I put my card base on a card, and then I thought I would add the Warmest Wishes to a little banner flag coming out from the side of the card. So I stamped it in Archival black ink again, and then I trimmed down this strip so that it's real close up to that sentiment. I didn't want a lot of space around it because I didn't want to cover up much of that sky. And then I cut the little banner flag in the side, and I used the opposite side I just cut to get the same on the other side. And then I took a black marker because I wanted it to kind of pop a little bit against the sky. I edged it in the black and then put it on thin 3D foam tape onto the night sky. And I just love how that turned out. Here's a close-up. And let's take a look back at all of the different cards. So here was our original inspiration from many, many years ago. This is my original one that I demonstrated for you with the snowflakes that I really don't think that you can see very well, but trust me, they're there and they look really pretty. But I smudged it, and so I just pointed to that. I tried covering it up with a white marker, and it just looked awful. So I redid it, and this is the Evergreen ink, and I think it looks better, and I like it without the Warm Winter Wishes better too. Here's card number 2, where we used stitched hills, die cuts, plus the cricket trees. And this one is all cricket, where we did the masking and the ink blending with the Distress Oxides. So let me know below which one you like best, and I would love to see if you create any of these yourself. So be sure to let me know. And be sure to check out the rest of the Creative Design Team projects. I am the last one for the week, so I will link everybody else's projects down below, and you are definitely not going to want to miss them. If you enjoyed this video, I'd love if you subscribed and liked, and I hope you have a wonderful day.